Recently, Forbes ranked Charlotte as having the #2 worst commute in the entire country, finally exposing a problem we've ignored for decades. Their analysis pulled data from the 25 largest US cities and went far beyond drive times. They looked at how dependent we are on cars, how limited our transit system is, and how strained and deteriorated our roads have become. And when all of those factors were combined, Charlotte stood out for the worst possible reason, what locals already feel every day. That our infrastructure never caught up to our growth, and the result is a city where nearly everyone is stuck with no choice but to sit in traffic. And as a Charlotte Realtor, it's me and my team's job to break this down honestly so you're fully informed if you're thinking about moving here. And when you're ready to talk to us, my number is right down below. So what's interesting about this ranking is that Charlotte's average commute time of about 28 minutes is actually on the low end. Many cities like New York's 43 minutes or Boston's 36 are far higher. So on paper, that makes it look like we're doing fine. But anyone who lives here knows this is far from the truth. 76% of workers drive alone to work, and only 2.2% of households lack a car, meaning that our 28 minutes is spent almost entirely behind the wheel and on the highway, with no alternatives if something goes wrong. We're all funneled into the same handful of roads like I-77, I-85, or I-45. So an accident, a lane closure, a stalled car, or even a rainy morning collapses the entire system. In contrast, in cities like New York, Boston, and DC, people have options when traffic gets bad. They can switch to subways, commuter rail, buses that actually have dedicated lanes, or simply walk or bike because everything is built close together. That mix of options gives those cities a built-in resilience and leads to a higher quality of life because the cities feel more alive, connected, and vibrant. Charlotte is the opposite. With some of the lowest walk, transit, and bike scores among major US cities, we've built a region where nearly every errand, job, or appointment requires a car. Our neighborhoods sit farther apart, our shops and restaurants are spread across wide corridors, and even simple daily tasks like grabbing coffee, meeting friends, or going to the gym often means a 10 to 20 commute drive. That car-first design has shaped not just our commutes, but the entire rhythm of life here, stretching out everything and making it harder for community, convenience, and vibrancy to naturally develop. But how did it get so bad? How did Charlotte end up so car-centric and spread out while other cities became dense, walkable, and vibrant? To answer that, we have to go back to the 90s when Charlotte was finally starting to grow into a true major metro. We were a late bloomer. When our population finally hit 1 million people, cities like New York, Chicago, Boston, and Philadelphia had crossed that mark nearly a century before. They grew during an era of streetcars, tight street grids, and walkable neighborhoods. Charlotte, on the other hand, grew right as America was building highways, cul-de-sacs, and suburban sprawl. Notably, we grew right as the I-45 Beltway was beginning to be built. And that timing is one of the most important insights into understanding Charlotte as a city. The loop wasn't just another highway cutting through neighborhoods and existing infrastructure. It created the development pattern itself. As each new segment opened, it created fresh land for developers to build massive subdivisions, shopping centers, and office parks. Their main question when building was always, how close is this to an exit? The greatest example of this is Ballantyne. Before the 90s, there was no reason for anyone in Charlotte to drive that far south, as the entire Ballantyne area was nothing more than 2,000 acres of rolling farmland owned by the Harris family, the same ones behind Harris Teeter. But when word spread that I-45 was finally moving forward and would cut directly through the southern edge of the county, developer Smokey Bissell purchased the land and began planning a massive suburban district of the likes that Charlotte had never seen before. Their vision was a massive master planned community that combined corporate offices, upscale neighborhoods, golf courses, and shopping centers, all built from scratch. With the highway being built right beside the property, the developers could justify thinking bigger because they knew the highway would deliver the traffic, the accessibility, and the regional connection their plan needed. Within just a few years, Ballantyne became the hottest destination to be. But it's not without its flaws. Understanding all the major factors that contribute to your specific needs and quality of life completely shapes your experience of where you live. So if you're thinking about moving here, connect with us so we can make sure you're choosing the right area for your lifestyle and daily needs. We've helped countless people make Charlotte home, and we'd be honored to help you do the same. And subscribe if you haven't already, as it's the free way to support our channel and it helps more than you know. So diving deeper into the negatives of Ballantyne, over time, its biggest strength became its greatest weakness. Since it was built entirely around the car, the area balloons into a sprawling maze of wide roads, endless parking lots, and isolated pockets of development. Residents began to openly criticize the area for feeling soulless, overly corporate and disconnected. There was no real town center, no shared gathering places, and no sense of community tying people together. It reached the point where the community had no choice but to rethink everything with their Ballantine Reimagined initiative, which is essentially a full-scale reboot, a deliberate attempt to fix the many problems caused by its focus on cars. But Ballantine isn't the only victim of Charlotte's car-centric growth. It's just the most obvious one. The city has built everything as if everyone will drive everywhere, all the time, forever. Inevitably, the system collapses under its own weight as the cars multiply but the roads don't. Steel Creek blew up around South Tryon and Steel Creek Road, overwhelming old rural corridors with thousands of daily commuters. University City did the same thing with Harris Boulevard, Tryon, and Mallard Creek, where office parks, apartments, and retail all pour into the same handful of arteries. Up north, the Huntersville-Lake Norman corridor funnels entire towns onto I-77. To the east, Mint Hill and Matthews rely almost entirely on Independence, Monroe, and Idlewild Road, which buckle under the weight of nonstop suburban growth. And the Concord Mills I-85 corridor suffers from the same design flaw on a bigger scale. Massive retail and distribution centers all emptying onto one interchange. Even close to the city, areas like South Park's Sharon, Fairview, Colony Triangle choke daily because they were built as car-first retail and job hubs with no supporting grid or transit backbone. So what can be done? Are we really destined to remain the second worst place to commute in the entire country? Well, the surprising truth is that Charlotte has not been asleep at the wheel. For decades, the city has actually recognized this problem and has been steadily working on long-term solutions that don't rely on widening roads forever. Their first major breakthrough was the Blue Line, which first opened in 2007 and transformed South End into one of the hottest corridors in the Southeast. What used to be an aging industrial zone turned into one of the most walkable, vibrant, investment-heavy districts in the entire region. The success was so undeniable, the city doubled down, expanding the Blue Line to University City in 2018. Today, that extension is one of the busiest transit corridors in the Carolinas, connecting tens of thousands of students, workers, and residents who no longer need to rely on I-85 or Tryon to get to where they're going. We also have the Gold Line and bus network. Lesser used transit, but still an important groundwork for the future that Charlotte wants. Their 2055 plan is for 50% of commutes to not be in a car. An insanely ambitious, likely misguided plan, but as of now, there is actually real weight behind their words. After years of stalled progress and political gridlock, we're finally getting the Red Line and Gateway Station within the next decade. The new 1-cent transit sales tax voters passed this November is expected to raise $19 billion over the next 30 years, giving Charlotte the dedicated funding it's always lacked. This is the first major transit tax since 1999, when voters approved a half-cent sales tax that paid for almost everything we have today. The Red Line is exactly what residents have been begging for, a way to finally avoid the daily nightmares of I-77. It's a full commuter rail line that will run along the O-Line corridor, connecting uptown to Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson, and eventually Mooresville. Instead of fighting through the same choke points every morning, riders will have a fast, reliable rail connection that bypasses traffic entirely. It will run directly into the Gateway Station in Uptown, which is the other major breakthrough we're finally getting. Charlotte's version of New York's Grand Central or DC's Union Station, a true multimodal hub where the Red Line, the Blue Line, Amtrak, regional buses, and future transit all converge. It's the kind of central hub that can actually support their ambitious 50% non-car commute plan. Phase 1 of the station actually finished back in 2022. And now that funding is secured, the rest will proceed quickly. Looking into the farther future, Charlotte has one last major piece in realizing their transit future, the Silver Line. This is the planned east-west light rail that will stretch from Belmont to the airport all the way to Uptown and the Bojangles Coliseum. It's by far Charlotte's most ambitious transit project ever, carrying an estimated $6 billion price tag, dwarfing the Red Line's $1 billion and Gateway Station's few $100 million. But it cannot be overstated how much this would benefit the city. Finally connecting the airport to the rail network is a game changer all in itself. But entire mini-cities are already being planned in anticipation of the Silver Line. There's Destination Charlotte, which completely reimagines the airport district, to the Iron District near Uptown, which will be a massive mixed-use redevelopment similar to Camp North End. Developers, planners, and city leaders all see the same thing. Wherever this line goes, growth will follow. And in a way, it brings the entire story full circle. Developers went from going outward and chasing I-45 because the highway told it to now building a new backbone based on public transit, connection, and long-term planning. It's a genuine moment of recognition and correction. The city understood the mistakes of its past, admitted that endless sprawl and car-first design were unsustainable, and is now putting in the money, the planning, and the political will to fix it. So yes, Forbes ranks us as the second worst place to commute in America, and yes, just about every Charlotte resident can tell you exactly where they get stuck, how long they sit, and which roads ruin their mornings. But even with all that, this is still our home. Because behind the congestion and growing pains is a city that's rising fast, reinventing itself in real time, and giving all of us a chance to help shape what it becomes. So finally, if you're thinking about making Charlotte your home, reach out to me and my team today so we can set you and your family up for success and find your place in this incredible, fast-growing city.